Are you fully behind the president?
I am fully behind him as our nominee until he's not our nominee.
It's that kind of dedication that makes a nation great, isn't it? That was Pramila Jayapal, who is she technically a member of ISIS or just kind of an adjunct, an ally? She's loyal to the end. She is with, and the end may be near. The end is near. Sure, he says the sheriff is near. Pramila Jayapal, she's with Joe Biden until she's not. And the moment something changes, she's not with him again. If only she were that loyal to the United States of America, but she's not. Not even close. The Democrat Party. The Clintonistas are on the loose. They got James Carville in the New York Times. I was sharing that with you yesterday. And another Clintonista, George Snuffleupagus. Have you noticed that his name, Snuffleupagus, is becoming more in more popular use? It's being used, Snuffleupagus. George Stephanopoulos, a.k.a. Snuffleupagus, he was encountered on the sidewalk in New York City, New York, the city that never sleeps. And amazingly, somebody asked him, hey, what do you think about that Joe Biden? Some rando on the street apparently asked George Stephanopoulos of ABC News, what do you think about Joe Biden? And George Stephanopoulos said, I think that he's brain dead, or something like that. I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but I'll bring that along in just a couple of minutes because he didn't give the answer that the Biden White House would like. He gave the Clintonista answer. And honestly, you got David Axelrod. He's an Obamaite, and he's out there saying, oh, I think Biden is going to lose in a landslide. I think Trump is going to win in a landslide. Now we have a Democrat senator from Colorado, Michael Bennet, saying that he was on CNN, saying that he thinks that Trump is going to win in a landslide. And it can't be long before they start burning police cars and attacking courthouses because they are the Democrat Party. Amazing stuff. But Snuffleupagus was encountered. He encountered someone on the sidewalk in New York, which is always dangerous because it's full of gangsters that from Latin American countries and from Central African and Central Asian countries and from China that the Democrats waved into the country. They're illegals. They're here illegally. They're illegal aliens. They like to say no person is illegal. That's a lie. A lot of people are illegal. And the Democrats love that because they see them as voters. And they love crime. They like more crime. It's amazing stuff. But Snuffleupagus on the sidewalk, yeah, he thinks Joe Biden is out of here. It's time. He can't do another 4 years. And he means in the White House, not in prison, which is a separate discussion that we may or may not get to today. Remarkable things. Then George apologized, and ABC News expressed their embarrassment. And they said, well, he doesn't speak for us. He just speaks for him. But we'll get to that. And again, the long knives of the Clintonistas. And this can be dangerous, as you know. A lot of people that cross the Clintons, especially Hillary Clinton, well, let's just say that, they're not going to be on the show today because, the rest. Remarkable stuff. So we've got the long knives out for Joe Biden because when the Democrat Party turns on you, it gets ugly. And now we get to find out. We get to learn something. I like learning. I think learning is good. Which is why, the public schools in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore and Chicago and San Francisco maybe should be shut down and we should start over again. But never mind that for now. Now we get to find out who's more powerful. The President of the United States, the most powerful man in the world, most powerful man in the country, or the Democrat political machine. This is the game now. This is what we get to find out. Now, of course, it would be great if Joe Biden were on the ballot on Election Day. And barring that, it would be fine, I think, if Kamala, the dimwit, Harris were on the ballot for the Democrats come Election Day. But it is a mad world out there. And now, and I gotta say, I'm ready to put $1 down, too. I'd put $1 down that the Democrat Party is more powerful than the President of the United States. When the President of the United States is a Democrat, certainly, and and maybe under all circumstances because of the filthy, corrupt Fourth Estate, the news media. That's where their real power comes from. It's not just their racism and all that stuff. Oh, speaking of which, in the Washington Post today, a terrible, horrible remnant of a former newspaper, just a thinning, and every day when you get it, it's lighter and lighter, fewer and fewer pages. Owned by one of the richest men in the world, Jeff Bezos. But that's not important now. The Washington Post has a story today that who's that racist Democrat senator again? Oh, no, not Richard Russell that they named the Senate office building after. So many racist Democrats. Robert Byrd, the Klansman. No, I'm talking about, Sheldon Whiteman. Sheldon Whites Only. Sheldon, I belong to a Whites Only club. It's a yacht club in Rhode Island, and only white people can be members. That's Sheldon Whitehouse, kind of ironically named Sheldon Whitehouse. He could never run for president, I think, because his name is Whitehouse, and that'd be too stupid. It would be a cartoon. But Sheldon Whiteman, and he does belong to this yacht club that is whites only. And that's fine because he's a Democrat, and with their history, that's no big deal, honestly. They have lynchings on weekends there at his private whites-only yacht club. Sheldon Whiteman wants to he sent a letter along with Senator Ron Wyden, who is a radical left-wing extremist and a dimwit, but to the Justice Department demanding that a special counsel be anointed to try to go after Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas once again. It started with Joe Biden leading the high-tech lynching decades ago when he was the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee and the confirmation hearing for Justice Clarence Thomas, maybe the greatest Supreme Court justice in the history of the United States and therefore the world. But the left, they're charging in on horseback with hemp ropes, and they've got ill intent as usual. And Sheldon Whites Only wants the Justice Department under Merrick Garland, who's a bitter, scorned man. He thinks he should be on the Supreme Court. So he's very angry about all this. And you can see him scowling all the time. He's scowling when he's sleeping. And they got a camera in his bedroom. It's kind of creepy. And so he wants a special counsel to go after just Clarence Thomas. Pretty amazing stuff because, he's nothing if not a racist. Just look at his club. And his name is Whitehouse, a.k.a. White Man. But setting that aside, speaking of the Supreme Court, last week I told you a story about an attempted carjacking that thankfully went terribly wrong last week in Washington, D.C. I just from memory, I think it was the 2200 block of 11th Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. And it was very late at night, July 4th, very early in the morning, July 5th. I think it was 1:15 a.m. And a U.S. Marshal, a federal law enforcement officer, was seated in his automobile with a second U.S. Marshal seated in his automobile a short distance away. What are they doing there at 1:15 a.m.? Nobody knows. We thought. And a young man, a Democrat, as it turns out, came up to the car with a gun drawn and was planning on carjacking this federal agent sitting in his car, a U.S. Marshal. And the U.S. Marshal said, "I don't think so." So he shot the little Democrat and unfortunately only wounded him. It was non-life-threatening injuries, which shows that the marshals need to spend more time at the range, doesn't it? And the second U.S. Marshal got out of his automobile and fired shots as well. And the individual in question was wounded, non-life-threatening injuries, taken to the hospital. His carjacking attempt was unsuccessful, I'm happy to report. It was the same day where just across the Key Bridge in Roslyn, Virginia, another young man, a Democrat, as it turns out, tried to carjack two different people. And a Metro police officer shot and wounded that would-be carjacker. But in any case, back to 11th Street Northwest. So these two U.S. Marshals, and I told you the story last week. But what we didn't know until yesterday is that the U.S. Marshals were there as the part of the protective detail for Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor, whose code name is Jake LaMotta. They call her Jake LaMotta on their two-way radios because she looks so much like Jake LaMotta very late in his career after his boxing career was on the downslide. But that's not. But never mind that. So it turns out that the guy was trying to carjack the U.S. Marshal on the security detail for Sonia Sotomayor of the United States Supreme Court. The Democrats are just a crime wave. Forget about all the illegal aliens just for a moment that they waved into the country and all the Venezuelan gangs and the cartels and the child rapists. There was another story day before yesterday about another illegal alien child rapist. I don't know how many there have been so far, but it was one thing I know. CNN and ABC News are not keeping a running tally because they're not in the news business. They're not journalists. They're a Democrat Party front group, each of them, CNN and ABC Fake News and the Washington Post too. But yeah, it turns out that the carjacker was trying to carjack, and I believe it was the vehicle that Sonia Sotomayor would be transported in, if she collapsed or something. Not really, just as her limo, because don't you know who she is? All right, so they tried to carjack Supreme Court Justice Security Detail. That is a big loser right there. That guy's a loser. So I want to update you on that. Just consider that I haven't updated you on it yet because there's a lot more to get to on that subject. Boy, oh boy, that's some good stuff. But the Democrat Party, I'd like to put out a request. Somebody, maybe in the Republican Party, should ask that Democrats stop shooting people because, we had 109 people shot in Chicago over the 4th of July weekend. Not that many people were shot in Fallujah or in Kiev over the weekend, but 109 people shot in Chicago with 19 murdered. And they were all shot by Democrats, and they banned handguns in Chicago years ago. They should ban Democrats. You want to have a crime-free Chicago, make it a Democrat-free city, and stop raising criminals and killers. How about that, Democrats? But so I'm just scratching the surface here. Now, again, some of the headlines I have in front of me under Biden gotta go. Democrat strategist James Carville says Obama, Bill Clinton, should lead discussion on Biden replacement. And so here they come. And I tell you, if the Clintonistas create a coalition with the Obamaites, commies and, sex abusers between them, then I do think that Joe Biden, even with Dr. Jill being the savior, the bodyguard, the whatever she is for brain dead, beach coma Joe, I still think Joe Biden's in big trouble when it comes to staying in the White House and continuing to be the candidate. And George Snuffleupagus says that Biden can't serve another 4 years. Again, the Clintonista, long knives, they're everywhere. And we have updates on the Parkinson's disease specialist visiting the White House again and again and again. NBC Fake News had a doctor on. He's an expert. And the doctor said, oh, yeah, he's got it. I've got that audio for you. Remarkable stuff. And Bernie Sanders, who's a communist. He's Bernie the Bolshevik. And it was a Bernie Sanders volunteer that shot and nearly killed Congressman Steve Scalise. But he didn't take any responsibility for that because the news media is that corrupt. It's extraordinary how corrupt the news media is. Bernie Sanders calls out Biden's scripted speeches. Quote, turn off the teleprompter. Yeah, because that'll make it better. That'll really work well for him. We've seen how that goes, Bernie. But he's a Bolshevik. He honeymooned in the Soviet Union because, the whole world available to him. And he said, I think I'll go to a slave state and honeymoon there with my awful, terrible wife. And Michael Bennet, again, Democrat Senator of Colorado, becomes the first Democratic senator to publicly warn Biden can't win the 2024 election. And when they come to that conclusion, then they're in big trouble because they need the power. They need the power. And David Axelrod said it's more likely Biden loses race by a landslide. See, once they get to that point, isn't that that's like a song, isn't it? That's Stevie Nicks or some landslide, and they're going to start singing landslide. And polls, I shared this with you yesterday too, but it's very important today. Hillary Clinton, according to a new poll, would beat Donald Trump better than Joe Biden and better than Kamala Harris. And you know how greedy and crazy Hillary Clinton is and the Democrats are. Remarkable stuff. And Joe Biden threatening Donald Trump with murder, I think. He said it's time, I'm quoting him now, time to put Trump in a bullseye. In a bullseye, right? Remember the whole big deal over the crosshairs on a website and Sarah Palin and Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, who was shot by a leftist. Remember that? Remarkable stuff. Also, NATO in town in Washington, D.C. Joe Biden, I think somebody should ask Joe Biden a really hard question. What does NATO stand for? Ask Joe Biden, it's an acronym. What does NATO stand for? I'll bet $1 he couldn't answer that question. We've got that. I've got an update on Israel and Iran funding the left-wing protests in America, in the United States of America. Teenage Democrats being funded by Iran, Iran being funded by Joe Biden, getting weird, and a slanderous obituary for Republican Senator James Inhofe coming up as well. We are at 888-630-9625. Yes. Volodymyr Zelensky is in Washington, too, because NATO's here, and it's where the money is. More on that later. Right now, let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Jeff, calling from Hagerstown, Maryland. Jeffrey, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Great lead in with Beck Bogart and a PC. Chris, you got it going on. I started early this morning, wake up about 3:30, and of course I tune into 105.9 and listen to the Red Eye Radio guys. I find them to be very informative and very entertaining. And I had some time to kill before I left the house, and I said in the third person, "Hey, Jeff from Hagerstown, turn on the TV and see what's going on." So I turned the TV on, I put on the guide button, and lo and behold, in Newsmax, there's the Biden Chronicles. And I'm like, that's Chris Plant Show. And I tuned it in, and I only had about 15 minutes, but it was I guess it's the one that you had done earlier, maybe about the climate control and all that.
Uh-huh.
You were going through the 60s, 70s, and the 80s, and all the threats that they laid on us with the ice caps and all that. And of course, you fold in Joe Biden, and it's just like hysterical. And I think I know hysterical TV because I'm a red-blooded American 60-year-old guy. I know what good TV and I know what comedy is, and I just wanted to give you that heads up and give you the compliment on that.
That's very kind. Thank you very much. So many amazing stories the Democrats give me every day. It's hard to keep up. It is. I only have 3 hours here and 1 hour at Newsmax. And Jeff, thank you for the nice call. Jeff woke up early this morning, very early this morning, and turned on the television, and there was Newsmax, and they were showing an episode of my television show on Newsmax called The Biden Chronicles. Now, Monday through Friday, I do Chris Plant, The Right Squad at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And I've also done these I believe 6 episodes of The Biden Chronicles, which are great fun. They're about Joe Biden falling downstairs and getting everything wrong from the teleprompter to impromptu questions and so on. And Jeff, thank you for that. It is a fun show. We had fun doing it. And it's funny because Joe Biden gives us all this stuff with which to be funny. It's hard not to. You just show Joe Biden and then make a face and you're good to go because the Democrats give us all kinds of fodder, don't they? Yes, they do. And I want to get James Carville and the Stephanopoulos and it's the Clintonistas. The Clinton gang has not gone away, and Hillary Clinton, she's got poll numbers and stuff. Remarkable things. But there was a story. I was leafing through my Washington Post this morning, which I do because it's my job and for no other reason. But inside the Washington Post today, a quite remarkable story, I've got to say, with a headline that got my attention. Wildlife officials, this is Joe Biden's environmental office, They're environmentalists. They really care about saving the world and the environment. They really do seem to care, don't they? And the headline says, officials plan to kill 450,000 invasive owls that are endangering native owls. I'm sorry, what? What are you planning on doing now? Pretty extraordinary stuff. That's right. Wildlife are going to kill 450,000 barred owls to save the spotted owls because, all owls are not created equally, right? I mean, it's pretty amazing stuff from the Democrat Party. They apparently hate the barred owl, and they really like the spotted owl. It's a little item, a little blurb on the front page at the bottom, stories they have inside. To save the spotted owl, officials plan to kill 450,000 owls, dividing advocates. Why would the advocates be divided about that? They're just killing extraordinary stuff, and it's making news all over the world. In Great Britain, it's making news as well. To save one vulnerable owl species, the federal government under Joe Biden has a contentious plan, killing hundreds of thousands of other owl species. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service said its proposal, released last week, but the news media ignored it, might is the key word, the only way to save the spotted owl, whose population has rapidly decreased while Joe Biden has been president. I just added that part. That's not really in the Washington Post story there. Population rapidly decreased in recent decades due to competition over food and shelter from an invasive owl species. This is their plan to shooting roughly 450,000 barred owls over 3 decades. It's going to take time. Could help spotted owls in the Pacific Northwest rebound. Sure, the plan has divided wildlife advocates. I'm against it, for one. I think the spotted owl will survive because, they know how to do this stuff. But going out and murdering, I love owls. Owls are among the coolest birds there are, and birds are great, of course, and raptors, and it's a great raptor. But they're going to kill them because, they had to destroy the owl population in order to save it. It's just like the Vietnam War. We had to destroy the village in order to save it, or the economy. The democracy. We had to destroy democracy in order to save it. Your Democrat Party, as they are, the Daily Mail in the United Kingdom has the story on as well with their headline: officials will hunt down and kill 500,000 owls in 3 U.S. states as part of a radical environmental plan. The Democrat Party must be stopped. They're genocidal maniacs. Why do they hate everything, including owls? Just extraordinary stuff. All right, now let's get to the politics here, because there's a lot going on, and the long knives are out for Joe Biden. And the Clintons are back behind the curtain. We've got Bill Clinton. He's out. He figures if they could move back into the White House and Hillary was president, that he wouldn't have to do much in the way of work. But chicks dig a guy that lives in the White House. He has some experience with this. Long list of women I could name here, many of whom I've met personally. But that's not important now. Some of this I shared with you yesterday, but there have been updates because time marches on and the Democrats never rest. They're fanatics. I shared with you yesterday a story. Democratic strategist James Carville says Obama, Bill Clinton should lead discussion on Biden replacement. And it is an article that James Carville wrote that they put in the New York Times because it's all part of the Democrat Party. And he wants to get 23 Democrat governors, James Carville, the Ragin' Cajun. He's the guy who, it was George Stephanopoulos and James Carville that beat down the bimbo eruptions, right, when Bill Clinton was found to be a lecherous cad, to be very, very polite. But now they're planning on, at least this is Carville's plan, to have Bill Clinton, come out of hiding and to have Barack Obama come out of wherever he is. And James Carville said, mark my words, Joe Biden is going to be out of the 2024 presidential race, whether he is ready to admit it or not. And pretty amazing stuff. He also said in the New York Times, his pleas on Monday to congressional Democrats for support will not unite the party behind him. So there's undermining, subterfuge, the usual. James Carville then went on News Nation, which is not a channel at all, with Fredo Cuomo. Fredo, his brother, had quit the governor's because he was groping, and there was all the people dying that he threw into old folks' homes during the Wuhan Red Death and all that. James Carville with Fredo. It was kind of sad seeing Fredo again, wasn't it? James Carville with Fredo Cuomo, and Fredo was trying to get him to say what he said in the New York Times piece.
This is all a matter of time. He's going to come to the conclusion that this is just not a good idea. And he's going to resist it, and he's going to listen to his family. It's inevitable. He will come to the conclusion. People will get the message to him. He will understand. His family will understand. They'll pray on it, and they'll make the right decision.
Very faithful family, very except when it comes to sexual conduct and taxes and a lot of others. Well, okay, where they're not a faithful family. Pay no attention to that. I was only kidding. Yeah, and he says, but there's Carville. He will come to the conclusion that geek, and he areas that it's time to drop out. It's inevitable. He just doesn't know it yet because he's a really stupid guy. Really dumb. And his brain was never good, but now it's broken like nobody's business. Now, TMZ, they covered a lot of showbiz stuff, and they actually break more news than the New York Times does. Mostly semi-irrelevant stuff, at least, but so they've got a story. George Stephanopoulos, Biden can't serve 4 more years is the headline at TMZ. I want to give them credit because everybody's reporting it now. But George Stephanopoulos tells TMZ, and listen to this, because he made a stunning comment on the streets of New York, telling a pedestrian that he doesn't think Joe Biden can serve another term. And I'm going to play the audio. It's a little hard to hear because it's a guy walking on the sidewalk of New York and recording it with his phone, which is a product of the patriarchy. You're welcome.
What do you think? Do you think Biden should step down? You talked to him more than anybody else have lately, and you can be honest. You don't think he can serve 4 more years? All right. That's an answer.
Yeah, all right. That's an answer. I don't think he can serve 4 more years. The guy asked him, I don't know if he's a rando, just a random guy walking down the street or what, but he says, do you think Biden should step down? You've talked to him more than anybody else lately. And he said, Stephanopoulos, again, a Clintonista, the Clinton White House, but a major Democrat / news anchor, right? The party arranged for him to make $17 million a year as long as he spends his entire adult life doing propaganda for the Democrat Party and whatever the party demands, whatever the party wants. And Snuffleupagus said, I don't think he can serve 4 more years. Now, that's pretty good stuff. I got to say, that's kind of a big deal. Like Ron Burgundy and Anchorman, kind of a big deal. So Snuffleupagus is saying that he can't serve 4 more years, maybe in prison, but not in the White House. And James Carville, they used to work together in the Clinton White House, says Joe Biden is going to be out of the 2024 presidential race, whether he's ready to admit it or not. Isn't that amazing? You may remember that George Stephanopoulos, and I was talking about at the time, was Stephanopoulos there to do in Joe Biden or to save Joe Biden? I think in the end it was to do in Joe Biden on behalf of the Clintonista wing of the Democrat Party, the establishment Democrat Party. You know, Joe Biden last week or the other day was talking about the elites in the party and how they're looking to do him in. And who do you think he was talking about? Who do you think Joe Biden was talking about? Remember, Barack Obama said never underestimate Joe Biden's ability to beep things up. And they never liked him. They never respected him. They just used him as a sock puppet and propped him up there. Last Friday, when Joe Biden was talking to George Stephanopoulos of the Clinton administration and ABC News.
Do you dispute that there have been more lapses, especially in the last several months?
Can I run the 110 flat? No.
That was not the
But
question.
I'm still in good shape.
Huh?
Are you more frail?
No.
Do you have the mental and physical capacity to do it for another 4 years?
No.
Please, I wouldn't be running if I didn't think I did.
Didn't think, yeah, but that's the problem. See, your thinking on this matter is, if you have dementia, do you know it? It's an important question. George Stephanopoulos put out a statement after his sidewalk moment, and he said, because he makes $17 million a year at ABC News, so he had to put out a statement. It was very brief. He said, earlier today, I responded to a question from a passerby, period. I shouldn't have. That's his statement. When you're a Democrat, that's all you have to say. That's it. Now he's in good. ABC News put out a statement, too. They said, George expressed his own point of view and not the position of ABC News. Now they're done. Then they went back to, smoking crack and cheating on their wives because they're done with that. Isn't that remarkable?
I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more.
That was his phone call to Joe and Mika. Joe and Mika, day before yesterday. Yeah, the elites. And then within hours, here comes Carville. It was Stephanopoulos had already stuck the knife in. Carville in the New York Times, they twist the knife, and it goes on and on. Remarkable things. And David Axelrod is from the Obama-Biden administration, former Chicago journalist turned Democrat Party operative. What's the difference? Very little daylight between the two. David Axelrod on CNN saying that he's really concerned, and what he says means that Axelrod believes that Biden should go.
He's not winning this race. It's more likely that he'll lose by a landslide than win narrowly.
More likely that he'll lose by a landslide than win narrowly. And now Democrat Senator from Colorado, Michael Bennet, appeared on CNN yesterday. CNN is a Democrat front group. ABC is a Democrat front group. Fredo Cuomo is a Democrat front man. It's all a Democrat Party circle fest in a hot tub. How long do I have to say it? How many times do I have to tell you? Democrat Senator Michael Bennet on CNN.
This race is on a trajectory that is very worrisome if you care about the future of this country. Joe Biden was 9 points up at this time. The last time he was running, Hillary Clinton was 5 points up. This is the first time in more than 20 years that a Republican president has been up in this part of the campaign. Donald Trump is on track, I think, to win this election. And maybe win it by a landslide and take with him the Senate and the House.
And a landslide. I don't really sing Stevie Nicks, but, Fleetwood Mac is, they're fine. The music is nice, but I don't sing it. And it's not it's not in my lane. Senator Bennett saying that Joe Biden is more likely to lose in a landslide, and that's bad news for Joe Biden. And David Axelrod saying Joe Biden is likely to lose in a landslide. That's not what they want, and they will take him out one way or the other. Senator Bennett.
The White House in the time since that disastrous debate, I think, has done nothing to really demonstrate that they have a plan to win this election.
Yeah, they didn't have any plan to win this election. What do you think? They're going to win? They're not going to win. That is... the Democrat Party is coming for their guy, and now we get to find out who's more powerful, the President of the United States or the what used to be smoke-filled rooms. Now, if there's smoke, it's crack smoke because nobody's smoking cigarettes anymore. Now it's a smokeless room. There's a sign on the door when you go in. Smokeless room, but it's still as crooked as it ever was. Joe Biden called them the elites in the party. They're coming for him. So who do you think is more powerful, the President of the United States or the backroom dealers of the Democrat Party? My money is on the back room. Okay, let's go to the telephones. Great deal more Democrat crazy to get to today, naturally. Right now, let's go to Peter, calling from the great state of Florida. Peter, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris Plant, Great American. How are you today?
Very, very well, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Listen, just quick point. One thing it's probably useful to examine is what do Democrats want? Do they want to retain power for the sake of power, or do they want to do good for the American people? And if you look back on the last 3.5 years of, oh my God, Joe Biden, what has he done for the American people versus what has he done to help retain power for the Democrats? That's if you look at things with that through that lens, I think it's pretty clear what their goals are. Just more power to Democrats. The American people be damned.
Well, they'll tell you that they're saving democracy because of Donald Trump, who's already been president for 4 years, and there were good times, peace, prosperity,
right.
and
but specifically, what issues are they trying to? What part of democracy is being threatened? Oh my goodness!
I think they think abortion, I guess. They've opened our borders, flowed untold numbers of gang members from Latin American countries and Mexican drug cartels into the country, tens of thousands of Chinese, Central Asians from the Arab world, untold numbers of people into the United States, presumably many of them at least hostile to the United States and hostile to everything that we represent. We've got crimes being committed, a crime wave. They lie to you and say, oh, no, you're just a racist because you noticed the crime wave going on. When I think your question is almost a rhetorical question. What do they want? Power or to do something good for the American people? And I got to say, they will tell you that they need the power so they can do good things. But they ruin the school systems. They ruin police departments. They ruin cities. They ruin the culture. They're hostile to us. The fundamental transformation of America is not something anybody voted for. They want power is the short and correct answer, Peter, and they want it to abuse it.